Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this meeting of the Ministerial Area Committee on the 10th of March 2021. This meeting has been recorded and the recording will be made available on the Council website for public listening. Can I remind members to follow the good practice guidance, which includes muting microphones and switching off their video when they are not addressing the meeting. Should you wish to contribute to any item, you should write speak in the Teams chat function and you'll be invited to speak in order about new issues. Should your question or issue be raised by a previous speaker, please withdraw your request so that we can deal with the business as efficiently as possible. The usual standing orders apply, including any votes that will be taken by roll call. If any member has to leave the meeting for any reason, can I remind you to write leave in the Teams chat function and then join, which will allow us to monitor members' presence. Tracy, can you provide the cedrant and who is participating remotely, and any apologies, please? And I can confirm my agreement to the participation of those members named as participating remotely. Thanks, Tracy.
Yes, thanks, Chair. Morning, members. We've currently got 16 members present. Not present at the start of the meeting is Councillor David McKee, who advised he will join us as soon as he can. And not present is Matthew Ronnie.
Thank you, Tracy. Do any members have any declaration of interest they wish to make? I don't think so. I have no indication. So we'll move on to agenda item number 3, minute of previous meeting 11th of November 2020. Is this a true record, members? And are you satisfied that we can record this as accurate?
Agreed.
Thank you, John. I take it that that's a unanimous decision. Thank you, members. We move on then to agenda item number 4. Dumfries Learning Town Phase 2, update and governance arrangements, report by Director Skills, Education and Learning. Our first report this morning is an update on the Dumfries Learning Town. Members, we have been asked to note a number of recommendations set out in the section 2 of the report. Lauren Foss, and I see Lauren's with us, is available in Teams to assist members with any questions. So without any further preamble, members, are there any questions to Lauren on the report before us today? I did note John Martin had a question, but I don't see him having signed in yet for that. John, there you are. John, can you carry on? Thank you.
Aye. It's just on the funding model. We pay the roughly 47 and 50 million up front, and it's paid back over 25 years, roughly 2 million a year. And there's a set of 4 categories for the outcomes. And over the 25 years, this has got to be monitored. What happens if we fall down, as I say, it's a long period, 25 years, we fall down in some of these outcomes. Do we lose the 2 million every year? And as I say, this is over 25 year. Like, say, what happens in, say, year 13? The likes of digital growth and that has moved on, which you expect it will do. Does that will that come in? As I say, I know the PPPE model that we went in, the contractors were responsible for any maintenance, but this one doesn't seem to be like that.
Lauren?
Yeah, thanks, members. It is one of the critical parts around the funding model for this project supported through the government funding. The 4 criteria, if I go through the 4 of them individually, that might help with a little bit of clarity around about them. The first one, the easiest one, is the digital connection element. The criteria from the government is that we have the ability for a gigabyte connection to the site, and that's already in motion, and will hopefully by end of summer this year that connection will be established. That's it. It doesn't change after that. So there's that ticks the box directly with the government for that criteria for the 25-year period. There's no exponential growth built into the process for that at all. So the goalposts don't change on that one. That stays as it is. The second one is around job opportunities for apprenticeships, for work schemes. There's a level of roles that need to be created through the work that are recorded as key performance indicators for the project. Now, they're a very short-term measure because they can only be in place while the project work's going on and maybe for 1 or 2 years after that. So they're measured across potentially 5 years. After that, there's no more measurement on that. So that criteria is a short-term criteria. The third one is keeping the school in condition A or B for the lifetime of the facility. So that school, when it's replaced, has to remain in a condition A or B rating, which in effect means it will have a similar model to our PPP schools and possibly Dalbeattie, in that some of the revenue funding that comes down to support the capital costs will have to be set aside to maintain the school in those conditions going forward. That, in relative terms, is easy to establish because the funding is there to allow that to happen. If that something happens that is out with the authority's control, storm damage, for example, there's damage to the building, the condition is down to a level C, there's an acceptable period of time for the fixes to take place, and it's balanced across a number of years. So if you dip down to a level C condition rating for 1 year, it doesn't affect the funding that comes on a annual basis to support the capital side. It's taken across a number of years that look at it. So it's only if we were to keep the school in condition C or worse for a number of years would the funding ever have a detrimental impact on that. The hardest one is the last one. It's the energy rating, the energy efficiency of the building. The government are targeting a number of between 67 and 84 kilowatts per square metre per annum. That's quite a hard number to reach in terms of efficiency ratings for the buildings themselves. From a design perspective, that absolutely points towards triple glazed windows, underfloor insulation, all of these things that will allow the building to be more efficient. If we are not able to meet that target on an annual basis, but potentially a severe winter or colder temperatures than normal, or there's a higher utilisation of electricity within the building because of the technology that's there 1 year over others, the impact that has on the funding that comes down from the government is fairly minimal. It racks up depending on the level of difference between the target and where we actually are. But it's not a significant value. So out of the £2 million-ish on an annual basis, that might make the difference of £50,000 across the year, sort of thing. It's all calculated through a spreadsheet with the detail sitting behind it. So from my perspective, looking at it from an officer's eye point, is that the level of change across those four criteria is minimal compared to the full amount that comes down. So in effect, I would say around 80% of the funding is guaranteed. The other 20% is based on those criteria and whether we meet them or not. So even worst case scenario, it's only a 20% drop of the value that comes down, and it's assessed year by year. So I hope that provides a little bit of reassurance.
Thanks, Lauren. John, do you want to come back before I bring in other members?
Aye, that's fine. It makes it a lot clearer. It's not over 25 years. Some it's ready now, and the rest is say 4 or 5 years of that. It certainly makes it a lot clearer than what it reads in the report.
Many thanks, John. Councillor Lever, Jeff.
Thanks, Chair. Members with very long memories will recall that Laurie Now Primary School, Noble Hill, were originally envisaged being in phase 2. That's obviously not going to happen now, but we are going to make major investment in those. Would Lauren like to give the committee an update on those two?
Lauren, again, please.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, absolutely. Through funding that's come in for 1140, the expansion of nursery provision, and through the asset class, we've been able to pull a project together at Laurie now that sees around £700,000-800,000 worth of investment in the school. They've just started on site this week. We're refurbishing, obviously the nursery needs twice the amount of space it currently has, so we're utilising underused capacity within the school building. So 4 classrooms will be converted to the nursery space. All the other classrooms will see a level of refurbishment. So some as simple as floor coverings replaced, painting, decorating. Some will have windows replaced, the heating and lighting addressed as well. So that's bringing the school up to a good condition throughout. Some roofing works and other bits and pieces. I think the consensus seemed to be from the school themselves that actually this was a really good result, because actually they're quite happy and content with the beautiful building that they've got. There's a little bit of 60s flat roofed part of it that will be brought back up to standard through this, and it gives them a facility that actually becomes a lot more fit for purpose than it is just now. Noble Hill, on reflection, when the condition surveys were reviewed for Noble Hill itself, the school's in a lot better condition than originally thought. But when you split it into 2 sections, you've got the main building closer to the Aldi shop than the nursery building or the early years building, where it's a timber framed porta cabin that's been overclad a number of years ago. It's the really poor part of the school. So again, through ELC funding and asset class funding, we've pulled a project together that will see that building disappear. There'll be an extension created to the main building that will accommodate for 2 primary classes and a larger nursery space with the associated external works. So again, that's sitting on the parent council there, that's quite a good result for the school, because it's a level of investment that's obviously disappeared through DLT2, but actually still gives them a good solution and a level of investment that will be probably in the tune of about £2 million or so by the time it's all done and dusted. The design work's underway just now, so a full cost of that will be confirmed as that process develops. Thanks, Chair.
Thanks, Lauren. Jeff, you want to come back? Are you content with that?
Yeah, I'm content. I think it was important that the committee knew that there was actually investment ongoing in those schools.
Many thanks, Jeff. Ivor, Councillor Hislop.
Thank you, Chair. It's down to the sort of procurement route, I think, that's concerning me. We've had various types of build in Dumfries recently, varying from design and build through to the Scottish Futures Trust. And we've had various complications with each one. The one that I can remember, or seems to stick in my mind, that didn't cause us too much was the development of, I think it was called the 2A schools, which were Cargan Bridge, Traquair and Lincluden. Now, I've never heard much back from there, as in any issues with the building. Will we be using a similar system to that? I think it was local people who were brought in to build that rather than outside contractors, the big sort of 4 as they call them, who so far haven't shown us a great, well, I don't have a great deal of confidence in them delivering us a quality product on time. So where are we sort of going in procurement terms?
Lauren?
I think one of the critical parts is for the contract strategy documentation to be pulled together. That's a standardised process through the procurement team that looks at all the pros and cons, the risk analysis, the benefits, the disbenefits around which procurement vehicle to use for the delivery of these projects. My gut feeling is that with Dumfries High School being a funded model with the SFT and the Southwest Hub sitting there as a procurement route, that might be a high contender for the high school. And I think the contract strategy may be of that opinion once that's concluded, but that process still has to be followed, with the output of that confirmed once that piece of work's been undertaken. There are huge risks with that. We as an authority, we're probably more aware than anywhere else in Scotland around the challenges that can bring. However, the lessons learned through phase one and other projects within the authority has certainly sharpened the thinking, and through the creation of the project management office, there's a structure now in place that should give us the ability to influence, to steer, to intercept more easily, more readily with whichever procurement route we end up going down. The 2A schools were delivered through council resource fully, our own architects in-house through property services or property estates and programmes now. I think for the Academy and Lorburn, it's likely that because they are direct council funding, that they'll go through the council route for delivery. I think the pressure may be there for the high school to be through the Southwest Hub. However, again, it will be the contract strategy that will determine the route for both. But I suspect it would be through the council route, similar to the 2A schools for the Academy and for Lorburn, and potentially through the Hub Southwest for the high school.
Thanks, Larry. Ivor, do you want to come back?
Just one of the things that we're not setting a budget and then fitting the school to the budget. We'll get the school that we need, and the budget hopefully will be within a sort of reasonable amount. You know, if it's $500,000 over, but we're getting a quality product, I take it we'll go for that extra $500,000 rather than, well, let's say the famous ones, DG1 with 17 million build as a swimming pool, and we end up spending 40 odd on it. Mm-hmm. So, you know, we don't want that to happen.
Absolutely, and I think that's one of the critical parts about our funding model, is that there was a level of optimism bias built into this. So in effect, there's a 24% contingency across the programme. So whilst the high school is, the costs for that are determined by a Scottish Future Trust metric, 800 children, 12 metres squared per child gives you the £33 million-ish that it comes to, with uplift takes it to about 38. We've added around £10 million in there in terms of a contingency. So if there are any abnormals that come up through the site investigations or anything that's left field that comes in, we've got the comfort there that all of that should be able to be contained within the funding envelope that we've asked for. The Academy is slightly different because it's a level of refurbishment that possibly doesn't cover the whole school. We'll absolutely use every single penny in there to make the best difference that we can, but the specification and the scope of where we'll get addressed will be determined as that project evolves. There may be bits that aren't addressed, but we would look to pick those up through the asset class going further forward. As I say, the Academy is just slightly different because it's not a full refurbishment value that's in against it, so it will be not a limited project. It will be an extensive refurbishment, but it won't cover the full cost of a full-scale refurbishment across the whole building.
Thanks, Larry, and I'll take it for granted that members will be fully involved in the process all the way through, including full council and the Education and Learning Committee. Thanks, Ivor. I don't see anyone else looking to ask any further questions or seek guidance from Lauren. So I'll take it that we're satisfied, and I will go to the recommendations. Members were asked to note the Education and Learning Committee decision to recommend to full council that capital funding of £73.975 million is allocated within the council's capital plan for this programme as detailed in section 3.4 and split as follows. Dumfries High School replacement £48.1 million, Lorburn Primary School relocation £7.12 million, Dumfries Academy partial refurbishment £16.4 million, management costs £2.265 million across a 5-year period. 2. Note the proposed governance structure and project management arrangements, inclusive of project management office oversight as set out in Appendix 1, and the membership of the project board as set out in paragraph 3.8. And 3. Note the timeline for statutory consultation on the relocation of Lorburn Primary School as detailed in Appendix 2 and paragraph 3.20. So members, I take it that's accepted, and we're happy to note that particular agenda item. Thanks, Lauren, for being with us today and for your input. Much appreciated. And thank you, members. We'll go on to agenda item number 5. Our second report is our discretionary budget monitoring report for 2020/21. This report provides members with details on how the Nithsdale. Andrew Maxwell, can you turn your camera off, please? It helps with the management of the audio and video for other members. And if you just stay with us, though, I'll give you a shout at the next agenda item. Thanks, Andrew. I'll give Andrew a minute to switch his camera off. So start again. This report provides members details how the Nithsdale Area Committee discretionary budget has been utilised in the last year, 2020/21, or the last 2021 financial year. During what has been an extremely difficult year for our communities and the organisations across Nithsdale and the wider region, it was unfortunate that events and projects such as the Riding on the Marches in Sancton and Dumfries, the full programme of flower planting, continuing the twinning relationship with Giffhorn and usual Christmas festivities and lights had to be curtailed or cancelled as a result of the COVID-19 restrictions. However, this allowed the committee to include a COVID-19 Renew and Recovery Fund, which has supported 16 groups with projects such as increased cleaning regimes, PPE, signage and digital equipment. Members will note that there remains over £55,000 from the 2020/21 budget due to the impact of COVID, and procedurally we are required to formally agree to carry this forward. In addition, we are also asked within the report to consider the proposal by the Stove Network to agree to carry forward their cancelled Christmas Festival of Light to be delivered for Christmas 2021. I see we have Derek Hextall with us today to assist members in our discussion, so I'll open this up to members. Derek, before I do, have you anything to add to your report? It's quite comprehensive, I see.
Morning, Chair, morning, members. No, Chair, nothing to add.
Thanks, Derek. Okay. Members, any questions or observations? Seems like an easy morning for you, Derek. If there are no questions, we will move to the recommendations. Oh, I've got who have we got? Ivor Hislop, please. Ivor.
Just a quick one for my understanding. It's on paragraph 314 with regard to the Stove Network and the carrying forward. Is that carrying forward the actual event or carrying forward the funding? Because, you know, they said they've spent the funding. So happy to carry the event forward to next year if they've spent on delivering it, but we'll have it next year. But it's just to clarify that point, please.
Thank you. Clarify, Ivor. You mean next year? You mean Christmas this year? Or do you mean next year?
I'm talking, sorry, it's budget time and we're in financial year, so that's why I was thinking next year.
Okay, thanks for that, Ivor. Derek, can you reply to Ivor, please?
I think so, Chair. Yes, it's the organisation have spent all the budget this year, and so rather than miss out on delivering the event, they still want to badge it up as being supported by Nithsdale Area Committee, and so have asked if they can deliver it in Christmas 21.
Thanks, Derek. Thanks, Ivor. Okay, if there are no other speakers, we've got the recommendations. We are asked to note the performance monitoring information from projects, initiatives that receive support from this area committee, discretionary budget in 2020/21, detailed in Appendix 1. Note that over 3,550 citizens have benefited from the delivery of 28 key local projects and initiatives, and almost £90,000 have been invested in projects and initiatives in the local Nithsdale area. 3. Agree to carry forward the remaining balance of £55,814.71 from the 2020/21 discretionary budget to the 2021/22 budget, as outlined in paragraph 310 and Appendix 2. And agree to the Stove Network carrying forward their Festival Light event to Christmas 2021, as outlined in paragraph 314 and 315. That's, I think, I'm sure is agreed, Derek. So thank you very much for being with us this morning. We'll see you again at 2 o'clock.
Thanks, Chair.
Thanks, Derek. Take care. Members, we move on to agenda item number 6. Disposal of land at Kingsway, Kirkconnell. Report by Head of Economy and Development. Our next report is for the disposal of land at Kingsway, Kirkconnell. Officers have consulted with 2 local groups on the disposal of this land. They advised that there was no community use for this piece of land, and Alistair Johnson, or I see it's Andrew Maxwell, is available in Teams. I take it, members, you've also received an email from the Kirkconnell Community Council, or Rose Murdoch on behalf of the Community Council, and they just make some observations to us that I'm sure you've all had, but just to make sure that you are aware that they are statutory consultees, and it's normal that they would be consulted. So I guess that would have been done. It just doesn't appear in the text on the report itself. Andrew, have you anything to add to the report?
No, not really, Jim. Just to confirm what you've already said, that we have consulted with that group as well during the preparation of that report.
Thank you. Any members, any questions for Andrew? Andrew, I have one that's an observation, maybe more than a question, and I'm quite sure I'm like everybody else, I would support the disposal of this land, provided the footpath is retained. My worry is that it'll probably be dealt with elsewhere, but when we consult with the local community, this is their opportunity to make observations on the disposal. If we dispose of this land in its entirety, I'm now talking about the plan on page 47 of our report. I don't know where it is in yours, Andrew, but the land we sell will be landlocked. The council will own land all around that piece of land that's for sale, and will therefore have to sell additional land for vehicular access purposes, which will have to run past the footpath. So I think we will have to sell more than what's indicated here to facilitate the building of a dwelling, because I presume this will be marketed as a potential development opportunity. So that means we need to protect the path. We need to ensure that we provide access. Otherwise, I guess we would be securing what could be a ransom strip. And there are issues about, it's featured in the message from the Kirkconnell Community Council as well, that the turning point is currently used as a parking area and causing difficulty for motorists. That's not for today, but access would have to be provided to this site, and it isn't done so in the proposal in the paper today. So I wonder if you can maybe tell us whether or no that has been addressed elsewhere. But I believe that in cases like this, we should be telling the public we're selling this plus whatever other is needed to ensure that development can take place.
What I'm intending to do is to submit a pre-plan application inquiry and to get Rose to consult on the actual road itself and the junction and the path to see, you know, if the path, you know, if that's the actual route of the path would need to get changed, or whether, you know, if a development could take place without the footpath being touched. And also regarding the issues of parking at the end of that road as well. So I'm expecting, you know, to get information back regards from Roads from that, and that is the questions I'm going to ask as well when I submit a pre-plan application inquiry before the site will be advertised.
Yeah, and I've no issue with that at all, Andrew, and that's a professional approach I imagine we take. The point I'm making is that if pre-planning comes back and said, yes, that's absolutely fine. Yes, we need a, you know, I'm fortunate at the moment that I chair the Planning Applications Committee, so I know that in developing a dwelling, there is a requirement of 2 parking spaces within the curtilage of the development plan, or alternative off-road parking being available. Well, that can't happen if we sell this land only. That's the point I'm making. I'm not asking about the professional approach to it. What I'm saying is if planning say yes, it can be developed. In order to do so, we will have to sell more land than we're currently selling to facilitate the access road into it. So we're consulting the community on one area of land when in effect we'll be having to sell by default a wider or larger area of land to accommodate the vehicular traffic and access that be required into a development site.
The reason for the inquiry was that it was the neighbouring owner had inquired about this area of land. They could get access from that area, from their drive into the actual site itself. If it's more beneficial that, you know, the site could be advertised and access doesn't need to get taken from that area of land, then we probably need to go back to committee to ask for more land to be disposed of.
And then the consultation would take place again, because I'd be really unhappy. I mean, I know the area well. I was born and brought up in Kirkconnell, and where it's been developed to date, it's a very attractive housing estate. So the very idea that the person, the adjoining homeowner, should get just the only opportunity to purchase this, I think would be disservice to the council. So I would expect that eventually it would, I presume, finance, procurement and transformation would decide that it should be marketed as a development site, and that's what I think members would want to see. We should be seeking best value at every opportunity. I'm happy that the adjoining homeowner has asked the question, but I think we should still be looking to market this. But anyway, that's just my own opinion. It's obviously our professionals will take that forward. I have Councillor Hislop looking to speak. Ivor?
Chair, I would support your view. If we market it as is, it's worth a tenner to the guy next door because nobody else can get access to it. Whereas if we market it with access, we actually have a house site, maybe even two, you could squeeze on there that you could sell, which would be more commercially viable for the council. And I think we should be looking to maximise our assets rather than just, well, somebody says they'll give us a tenner for it, because nobody can get access to it as is other than the resident next door. So I would support your move that we look to form an access, or whether we can do it through agreeing a right of access over our ground if we don't need to sell it. But I think we should be looking to maximise our asset in this occasion.
Thanks, Ivor. I would hope that would be the view of members, that this is clearly an asset that could be developed, and it might also be that we're actually doing a disservice to some others in Kirkconnell who might want to build a home and live in Kirkconnell, and that would be the process that will be taken forward, I would imagine, with finance, procurement, transformation. We are not here today to tell Andrew what to do in his professional capacity. If we are making an observation that we think that a consideration should be given to marketing this site with access, and we have to go back to the local community with another consultation just to make sure that they're comfortable that if we create a road that the footpath can be incorporated in some way to ensure that it's no removed and the community disadvantaged further, then I'd be happy with that. So we're being asked to agree the disposal. I think that's right. I think that's a right process to take forward. We don't instruct members of staff what to do, but Andrew will have a clear steer from us.
Can I just, sorry, we actually have had another inquiry from the member of the public. We're under an obligation to obtain best value for the council's assets. So either way, we'll get the best value for that site. Whether we need to take more land or, are expected, what we want to do is once I have consultation back from the pre-plan application inquiry, I would want to advertise it in the open market to get best value for the council's assets.
Yeah, I get that. The only point I'm making is, and just that it's a minor thing, but what I'm saying to you is, you have support from the local community to sell this piece of land or dispose of it.
Yep.
But we can't get best value without selling a bigger area of land than the community have agreed to dispose of.
Yeah.
And that's the point I was making, that when we're doing things like this, we should consider how best we get best value. And that could be including an access opportunity which ensures or requires a larger piece of land to be sold, and built into that sale is protection of the footpath, because it comes from, members will remember just a few, maybe even last meeting, we supported a development aspiration from Kirkconnell Development Trust for building houses, and this path leads directly to that development site. So these people that will be in these new houses hopefully in a few years will need access along that path, as well as all the other residents who stay further to the south in the development site. So we can't dispose of the path. It's a key arterial route into the Kirkconnell community itself, but we need to make sure that we provide enough land to the access site for development purposes should it be sold, and that means that we are selling more land than is indicated on the plan on page 47, which is really the only observation I'm making. You will get best value. That's what you do professionally. All I'm saying is, when we consult the community, we shouldn't really be consulting them twice. We're going to have to go back now and say, we showed you map A, now here's map B, which is only another, 30 metres for the access route that might be required. But that would have been done the first time had we given consideration to it as a marketing for a development site rather than an inquiry from an adjoining property owner. Sorry if I've rumbled on too long, Andrew. I'm sure you get the message, though, that it's simply that this site can't be accessed if we sell it as is. And Councillor Izzup's quite right. He said as well that we should be seeking best value, and that's something you'll do. So I'm content, Andrew. I made my point. I'm sure you'll take that forward, and the members are in this area committee are on the FPT as well. So I'm sure they too will have an opportunity to discuss that as the proposed disposal goes forward. Are there any other members looking to raise any issues or question Andrew on this particular disposal? So as far as this meeting goes today, we are agreeing to the disposal of the land as set out in the report and with the observations made by Kirkconnell and Kilhome Community Council and the other consultees who are on the. And I'm just being told this proposal for noting for agreement. The Communities Committee has already made the decision to agree to dispose of the land. We have been asked to advise if there are further groups to consult. Okay, well, there are no further groups to consult. I just hope that despite what I've been reminded by our governance officer, that Andrew will get the message that there are other issues to address, and it may be that we need to reconsult if necessary before disposal. Folks happy with that? In that case, Andrew, thanks very much. I take it you're staying for the next agenda item?
Yeah, I'll stay for the next agenda item.
Brilliant. So, members, we are asked to, when I can find it, forgive me, we've been asked to note that 1,557 square metres of land at Kingsway, Kirkconnell is surplus to council requirements. That's contained in the appendix. Note that community councils and groups listed at paragraph 3.5 in this report have been consulted with regard to potential community uses, and advise if there are any further groups members wish to consult with regards to the potential community use. So we've done that. If members are happy to note that has been done, we'll move forward. And thanks again, and thanks Andrew for your input on that last discussion. We come to the last agenda, or second last agenda, disposal of land at Preston Mills near Kirkbean. I seem to be getting myself in a fix this morning, members, for some bizarre reason. but bear with me. Right, our next report is for the disposal of land at Preston Mills near Kirkbean. Similar to the last report, 2 local groups have been consulted in the disposal of this land, with both groups confirming there is no community requirement for this area of land. And again, Andrew is with us to answer any questions members might have. Again, we have an inset plan on page 51. Do any members have any questions or observations on this report, and advise with any further groups who wish to consult? Okay. In that case, members, we are asked to note that 215 square metres of land at Preston Mill near Kirkbean is surplus to council requirements contained in the appendix. Note that the community councils and groups listed at paragraph 3.5 in this report have been consulted with regard to potential community uses, and advise if there are any further groups members wish to consult with regards to potential community use. And I think the answer to that is no. In that case, members, if you're content, we'll agree that report as well. Andrew, good to see you. Thanks very much for being with us today.
No worries. Thank you.
We'll catch up with you again. Thanks very much, Andrew.
Bye.
Bye. Okay, members, we'll move on to our last item for today. We now have a street naming report for Glencapel. Members here are asked to agree to Clark Avenue as the preferred name for the new road associated with this development. And Kevin Morrison, Kevin is with us with teams to answer any questions members might have. Morning, Kevin.
Morning, thank you, Chair. Morning, members.
Members, Leader, Lynn Murray.
Thanks very much, Chair. Mine's not so much a question as really to commend the process by which this name came up. The Community Association was asked if they had any suggestions, and they ran on their website. They ran a short, not exactly a competition, but a short consultation to get a number of names from members of the community, and they then selected the most popular names and ran another vote to come up with the most popular name. So it was really just to commend that. Also to commend the fact that they did not include Rhodey McRoadface, which I think did come up as one of the suggestions. But definitely the Clark Avenue certainly seems to be well consulted on, and it is the preference of the community, and therefore I certainly would be very pleased to support that. And I think that's true of all the other local members that we felt that the community really did consult very well on achieving this name. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Leader. Any other? Councillor Campbell has agreed to that. If there are no other members looking to speak, thanks, Kevin, for being with us today. We
Thank you, Chair.
are asked to agree Clark Avenue as the preferred name for the new road associated with this development. That's agreed, members. Thank you very much. Members, that concludes today's business. Our next meeting will take place on Wednesday, the 12th of May 2021. Thank you all for your attendance today, and for those of you that are coming to the seminar this afternoon, I look forward to seeing you then. Thanks again, and thanks very much, officers, for all your time. Thank you.